Namaskar and welcome to Indian Diplomacy, show on India's national broadcaster Doordarshan about Indian foreign policy, India's international relations, and key developments and phenomena that have an impact on India's rise. Viewers, this is a special episode where I am doing a dialogue with 28 outstanding young students drawn from dozens of colleges and universities across India to reflect on the theme of national security threats. National security is a matter of prime concern for India since independence, but it has morphed. The idea, the concept, as well as the nature of the threats have evolved over time. So, contemporary India, how is it tackling this menace, and what kind of means and capabilities does it have to deal with these threats, as well as the ideas and the thinking behind the doctrines and the strategies and approaches to managing national security threats. This is the theme of the show. I want to welcome all these young people who are here with me from dozens of colleges across India, and who are keen observers and participants in the national security vision and national security ideation of the country. How is the Josh, my friends?
Hi, sir.
That's a loud hi, and that's what we expect from young India. So I'm so proud to be with you all. Let me commence the show by talking about the most obvious fact, which is we have two hostile neighbors who figure very, very prominently in the national security matrix. Right? There's just no doubt about it that China and Pakistan figure as our main external threats, and this is not a new phenomenon. You all know that almost since the dawn of independence, we have been trying to manage these two hostile neighbors. There have been phases when we thought that we could work out our differences and disputes with them, but then somehow there is a kind of like a repeat loop quality with China and Pakistan, and they keep coming back in some form or the other to try and disrupt our progress and our rise. So let me start with this, the China-Pakistan axis. One way of looking at it is that each is separate, but over time they have become collusive. And our viewers will also recall during Operation Sindoor, which is not long ago, we saw this direct collusion between China and Pakistan. So I want to bring in some voices among you on the China-Pakistan axis. What do you think is the nature of this collaboration, or this what they call all-weather alliance, or a kind of no limits partnership and such things? They use very high rhetoric, but it's not just rhetorical. As we are seeing, there's a lot of military intelligence and also financial integration between these two hostile neighbors. So let's talk about this two-front problem. Yeah, can someone come in and reflect on the China-Pakistan axis and how this threat has been evolving? Yes, please.
Hello, I'm Srishti. I'm from St. Mary College, University of Delhi. And so I just feel that with China and Pakistan, because you're talking about, as they say, all-weather alliance, I think so once we should start by looking at them in separate points. So for example, in Pakistan, we talk about Pakistan as a mere irritant, mainly because it doesn't have that sort of economic and political, capital in the international affairs to, pose as a major threat. Whereas as China is a major power in terms of geopolitical alliance, wherein it has to face India in three paradigms, mainly first in the neighborhood, secondly as a leader of the global south, and thirdly as an alternative power source to the US. And now when we see them as a separate thing, because now China doesn't have that sort of incentive to go out all on India, because it has some stakeholdership in the international alliance where it cannot be seen as an irresponsible actor. So I think so in isolated terms, they cannot, in either isolated terms, they cannot tackle India directly. Now the problem is when they come together, and that's a major issue, I think so, like all-weather partnership, or as we recently heard, brother in arms. So that's a major problem that there exists for India, and I think so this then opens on the two front. We have seen after 1962 war, them coming closer on nuclear front firstly, secondly militaristically, and thirdly, politically, strategically, in developing infrastructure. So, for example, we have them developing the nuclear program of Pakistan during the 1990s, and now recently, it like earlier it was mainly defense equipments being given, but now it's more of a R&D side, which is quite dangerous for India. So I think so now this strategic partnership has been deepened. It has evolved over time. It has even though we can see that China being the older brother of the brother-in-arms, wherein it defines what the weather is in the all-weather partnership. So I think so it's a very dangerous alliance for India on the two fronts, where when these come together, I think so India then has to develop some sort of multilateral partnerships with its other partners. If I would have come here before, I would have said let's develop it with US. But then now we are seeing the rise of the Trump era in the US, and the way they have changed their views according to India. So I think so India should tread carefully at this point.
It's becoming more complicated. The counterbalancing of the China-Pakistan axis is becoming more complicated. A friend from one of the prominent Delhi University colleges is saying that. Can I get in some more voices on China-Pakistan collusion, and especially the fact that, as our friend was saying, Pakistan is like a junior partner or almost like a dependent on China, right? I mean, some people say that Pakistan is not by itself a threat, but it is simply a pawn of China. So can we hear more about this aspect? Yes, please.
My name is Anushka Singh. I am from Kirorimal College, Delhi University. What, in my belief, China-Pakistan nexus has evolved into sophisticated strategic partnership that is increasingly calibrated against India. If we see, they started their relationship from military and nuclear cooperation, but now it deep encompasses into economic, diplomatic, and technological collisions. The CPEC is a core example. We see that China is investing hugely in Pakistan, but on the land which India considers as its own, hence violating our territory. We see more frequent military exercising held in between them, more technological transfer, and they are coordinating even on positions at LOSC and LASC. We see that China shields Pakistan at forums like UNSC and FTF, and Pakistan backs up China on issues like Xinjiang or Taiwan. So yes, the threat is real. But in my opinion, India is adapting well. We are focusing on our border fronts, modernizing our armed forces, and at the same time, we are focusing on strengthening our alliances like the Quad or the Indo-Pacific alliances. So in the long term, according to me, India should focus on building internal resilience, strongly putting its views on multilateral forums and reducing its dependency. In conclusion, I just want to say that India must speak softly, but should keep a sharp stick. Engage multilaterally and deter bilaterally.
Okay, thank you so much. Speak softly but carry a big. This is Theodore Roosevelt's maxim, and our friend from another Delhi University college is talking about. Thank you so much. So yeah, the nature of this collusion has been something, a matter of great concern for us, and the fact is they have been inseparable for more than half a century now, and it's clear that there is a containment of India, kind of a shared goal which brings them together, right? And this is despite the fact that there are so many attacks and killings of Chinese personnel and workers inside Pakistan, in Balochistan and all these places. But in spite of that, they think that geopolitically they need to come together, and this is a major matter of concern. And let me take you a little forward on this China-Pakistan axis on the question of terrorism, because the Chinese have also faced terrorism, but they seem to be able to absorb these losses and still stick close to Pakistan, right? I mean, it's not like they have read out the riot act or have abandoned Pakistan because of the terror attacks against their personnel inside Pakistan, where they're doing all these CPEC projects. But still, there is the broader issue of terrorism in the region, on which we often find that the Chinese, as our friends were saying, often stand behind Pakistan and shield Pakistan from international scrutiny or sanctions and all that. So on this front, obviously Pakistan is the main sponsor of anti-India terrorism. but then the Chinese seem to be standing behind the Pakistanis to make sure that Pakistan gets away, or try to get away from. In fact, when we took the retaliatory measures during Operation Sindoor, China was the first country, the first big country to come out and say, we find the Indian actions to be regrettable. And then we saw that at every level, they tried to prop up Pakistan to prevent it from suffering a humiliating defeat. So let's talk about terrorism and counterterrorism now. This is obviously a main national security concern for us, as much as the conventional threat of a direct war with our two neighbors. On this front, our doctrines and the way we are tackling and managing this threat has evolved. And in the Narendra Modi era, there is a much more proactive approach, a more muscular approach, willingness to use force. Those of you who have read my 2022 book, Crunch Time, would have seen how I've shown the change in the strategic culture. So I want some of you to come in and talk about this aspect in counterterrorism. How is India doing counterterrorism today as opposed to, say, 15, 20 years ago? And are we able to adapt to the changing times and to the changing techniques and methods that the terrorists are also using against us? And can we ever actually eliminate this problem once and for all? I mean, we seem to be able to try and maybe deter it to some extent and prevent them from, these terrorists from achieving their ultimate political goals. But can we crush terrorism once and for all, and if so, how? Can someone come in on reflect on our counterterrorism approaches? Yes, please.
I'm Sneha Thakur, everyone, from Gargi College. अगर हम पहले की बात करें तो the response was largely, law based. The TADA Act was introduced, but after 2000s, our policy has shifted to institutional strengthening. Like in 2009, we have established NIA, National Investigation Agency, and after that we have strengthened the NSG, National Security Guards. But in today's India, we have shifted to deterrence, from deterrence to punishment. Today's India is more strengthened, most powerful. We are now we have no shies to call Pakistan as a sponsor of terrorism. We are now more strong. So I think India's policies has changed towards security from past times.
And we are also striking inside Pakistani territory, right? That's a big difference,
yes,
right?
Obviously.
In the past, we were not
recently
doing that.
we have seen Operation Sindoor, Operation Mahadev, where we killed 3 terrorists from Pahalgam attempt. So yeah, today's India is like more likely responsiveness. We in recent interviews, our external minister affairs minister Jaishankar has largely said terror and talks cannot work together. Blood and water will not flow together. So yeah, this policy will be like more powerful towards India.
Right. So there is a more assertive approach to counterterrorism, says our friend from Gargi College. More voices on counterterrorism. Can I hear from someone else, please? Yes, please.
Hello sir, this is Anshika from UIT. So basically, as you stated, that we have a proactive approach now. So in earlier times, what happened was we used to consult with other countries, like shall we bind in the force, shall we go against Pakistan? But now our honorable Prime Minister, what he does is, be it Uri surgical strike or right now Operation Sindoor or Operation Mahadev we are talking about. And also, starting with this year, like 2025, our defense secretary said that this year is going to be a reforming defense. So we are going to focus on reforming our defense sector. So that is
I'll
all.
come back to defense and technology in a while, but yeah, thank you. Counterterrorism, consulting others, how far should we go? This is an interesting point. And in the past, that has been a constraint, right? Like we have been maybe overly cautious in the pre-Modi era, wondering what this power center or that power center might say or do, right? But now it's more of a self-confident response that says, okay, international opinion can be molded and shaped. And in fact, after Operation Sindoor, we sent out so many delegations of members of parliament across the world to many continents to put our viewpoint across, right? So there is that new India that is saying, okay, I'll take risks and I will mold the international opinion in my favor, or at least to stay neutral and not interfere, right? I'm not going to be worried that this might upset country X or country Y. I'll do what is my national duty for national security. right? Any other views on counterterrorism and our approach to counterterrorism? Yes, please.
Hello everyone, my name is Lokesh and I graduated from St. Stephen's College, University of Delhi. India is optimistic in its approach. Defense Minister has recently said that India is capable of going to the roots of the terrorism and uprooting it. So it shows the real politic approach that India is following in its foreign policy, and especially with regards to counterterrorism measures. We have specific alliances with Quad countries and also especially with US. We also see similar alliances that India is pursuing in by focusing on South Asian countries and also Africa. Recently, the Prime Minister has gone to Africa expressing her views on counterterrorism. So this shows how Prime Minister Modi has pursued various approaches to combat this terrorism and this menace.
Okay, thank you. You're using the word alliances, but it's more like what we call strategic partnerships, because we don't do formal alliances, but it's okay. I mean, what you're talking about is cooperation, and that is critical for tackling this menace. Any other thoughts on our military doctrine and tactics and approaches to countering terrorism and how it has been changing lately? Yes, please.
Namaskar, sir. I'm Ramanjeet Kaur from University of Delhi. If we see in the recent years after PM Modi took office and NSA Ajit Doval, he finally had the Doval doctrine, the double squeeze strategy of defense and offense. And we can clearly see with that strategy, in the offense strategy, we would have preemptive strikes like the Uri strike. And for the defense strategy, what we are doing is essentially taking India to a different level in the global arena, and we are isolating Pakistan and underscoring the terrorism of Pakistan. We can clearly see a change in the policy of India because this is a new India. We are not timid anymore. We are not willing to be silent and take it anymore. We want to change the opinion, and we are working on changing the opinion. We sent 125 global ambassadors after Operation Sindoor to tell the world about Pakistan's notoriety. And I think that this is the change that we should continue.
Thank you so much. That's very well articulated. And yeah, I think there is a change. And India used to have the tag of a soft state, and no longer so, right? And sometimes the world has been surprised by a willingness to go even cross the old red lines that we had set for ourselves. So yes, there is change. Okay, let's move to the core military aspect now, because national security has always traditionally been closely linked to military and defense capabilities and willingness to use force. We already talked about this in the context of counterterrorism, but in the broader arena of the balancing, where we have a great power like China, which is hostile to us, as we have already established in the show, and which has got enormous economic and military capabilities, and which disputes large stretch of territory with India, and which occupies a large amount of Indian territory going back to the 1950s and 60s. And now the question is, do we have the means to deter our adversaries in military terms, and what are the core strengths of the Indian armed forces that will ensure territorial integrity and unity of this country? And do we have to build more muscle, because the gap with China is big, the strategic gap with China is big, right? And although we are growing faster economically, it will take a long time for us to bridge the gap. So what can we do to make sure that we are not left behind militarily and become easy prey for a predatory country like China that wants our territory and that is imposing its will on smaller neighbors? So let's talk about our military capabilities and defense preparedness. Can I get in some voices, please? Yes, please.
Sir, my name is Prasan and I'm from Liberal College, Manipur University. Sir, talking about the military capabilities that India has, sir, India is the fourth largest military in this world. And talking about our nuclear capabilities, and India is the nuclear threat, which means the nuclear weapon which India have can be operated from all the three services. Sir,
land, air, and sea.
Yes, sir. Sir, and talking about the recent procurements of India, sir, it is Rafale fighter jet and S-400 drone, S-400, the defense system, which is also playing important role in the Operation Sindoor. And again, indigenously developed INS Vikrant aircraft carrier. Sir, these are the recent procurement that India have. And sir, about the strategies that the armed force is also planning, that is, we have different commands for Indian Army, Navy, and Air Force. But this should be combined, and we have to establish a joint command. And there is also one joint command in Andaman Nicobar Command for all the tri-services. Sir, I think this is also a very good strategy.
They call it theaterization. Yeah.
Yes, sir. This is also a very important strategy, so that the collaboration of all the three forces is also needed for the counterterrorism. And talking about the improvement, sir, we have already started the Atmanirbhar Bharat, and India have already tied up with various PSUs and startup for defense innovations, in which we can explore our potential more regarding using AI in drone capabilities for better surveillance in the border area, and also the modernization of our technologies in terms of weapons and missiles. Sir, after the success of Operation Sindoor, we can also see that many countries such as Vietnam, Brazil, UAE, they've shown a very strong interest in the Indian missile system, especially the BrahMos. So I feel, sir, we have to focus more on R&D and also the Atmanirbhar Bharat for more and more strong capabilities to be developed in the future.
Thank you so much. Our friend from Manipur has made some important points, including the crucial aspect of R&D and technology and all these things. These are, of course, the basis for countries' military power. He's also mentioned some of the facts about India not being a pushover. We also have some very advanced capabilities of our own. There's one word which he used, which I want to emphasize, which is drones. Now, this has been a game changer, right? I mean, it's completely altered battlefields across the world, especially in the last 5 to 10 years. This has been the big buzzword, and this is also something that were used during the Operation Sindoor by both sides. So this is clearly an area where, if we can up our game, I think we will be even better prepared. Any other thoughts on defense and military, and not just maybe to defend our borders, but also to project our power, because national security is not just about staying happily inside and being protected. It's also about making sure that the entire region, for example, the Indo-Pacific, where the Navy is so critical for our national security, what do we need to do to be on top of the game in defense and military? Any other thoughts? Yes, please.
Hello, sir. I'm Rakshit Srivastava. I'm from Ramnarayan Rhea College, Mumbai. To answer the question, what do we need to do in terms of Navy and the Indian Ocean and protecting our interests? I believe that firstly, we need to maintain or develop a blue water Navy. Although we have an ocean named Indian Ocean, which is named after a country, and but I believe that Indian Navy is not as far as capable or powerful as it needs to be to project power and protect our interests in the Indian Ocean. Firstly, although there have been multiple advancements and multiple developments in this area, firstly, there have been multiple islands or military bases which are being developed by the Indian government in foreign places. For example, the recent example I remember is Agalega Island in Mauritius.
It's not exactly a base, but yeah, we have security agreement.
Security agreements. We have leased Dukkam ports for dual use of the Indian
Oman,
Navy. Oman, and we have also agreements with Singapore, the Changi base, for projecting our power in the Malacca Strait. I think there is a need to develop land bases in the Indian Ocean by partnering with the island states and the nearby neighboring countries, for example, the East African countries. And there's also a need to develop there's also a need to develop the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Andaman, there have been recent developments, but there's also a need to do more. Apart from that, there is a need to engage in multilaterally with a lot of countries in the Indian Ocean. For example, we are a part of Indian Ocean Rim Association, but that recently India has also taken, or India will take the leadership position in one of the leadership position in this organization. But this organization has not been that active as it has to be. Not a lot of summits have been conducted, and so there's a need to engage of furthering and strengthening multilateral cooperation. Furthermore, as K.M. Panikar, he said that India is in a central position in the Indian Ocean to project power from the Arabian Peninsula to Southeast Asia. I'm not sure if I'm saying the right words, but
that is the Indosphere,
Indosphere. So I believe that there is a need to strengthen our position. This can be done firstly by military preparedness, multilateral cooperations, and yes, sir, that's it.
Thank you so much. Our friend from Mumbai is talking about the need for venturing out and also acquiring bases or strategic locations from which we can project power, and that is how we can defend the Indian Ocean, especially from the Chinese encroachments. Okay, we have spoken about defense and counterterrorism and China-Pakistan collusion, all these things. But let me go a little deeper now into the tech question, because technology has become a driver of power and power politics today, right? And is the main fault line also dividing some set of powers from other set of powers in the so-called new Cold War. And this is an area again where you will see there are a lot of new technological advances that are happening, which are linked to national security and linked to defense, and where we are expected to step up to the plate and do more. So I mean, everyone talks about artificial intelligence, but how much of it are we now being able to integrate into our operational doctrines and all these things, and how much of it is clearly known by our adversaries to deter them? These are some of the critical questions with technology. So as a technological power which has got a link to national defense and security, how are we doing, and what more do we need to do to catch up with the ones who are above us in the international hierarchy? Can someone come in on technology and our approach? Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Lakshmi. I'm from Rajasthan University, and as we know, in the geopolitical sphere, we face a divide of north and south clearly, and the north is not appreciative of south gaining the technology or making it. So we have to rely on ourselves only and ourselves only, because no one is coming to help us. At the end of the day, it's us who are going to make something happen. And in the recent Rafale deal also, the French government were ready to share the technology, but that deal is not going forward. We need to go for grassroots research and development, I guess. From my opinion, some very realistic, pragmatic problems have very idealist solutions. And the idealist solution can be that the younger generation, the people who can do something and want to do something, should be given more space, more time, more money actually. The main basis of how we are going to develop research is we need to ensure that people studying in colleges, university get their share of amount of money and economic welfare they deserve, like people studying, doing PhDs and other researches. They deserve to get a good life, and at the end of the day they will help the country to develop.
Thank you. Yeah, our friend from Rajasthan University is talking about creating an ecosystem for technological research and innovation. That's of course a big monumental national task. Our higher education, PhDs especially in advanced fields, cutting edge fields, need to be amped up, and there is a lot of work that we need to do. Any other thoughts on tech, and how well are we able to harness technology for national security in the contemporary era? Yes, please.
I'm Anjali Sharma. a graduate from Sri Aurobindo College, Delhi University. There is a very famous saying that the modern threats have blurred the traditional lines, and we need to upscale and elevate within the cyber domain. And the Operation Sindoor has been a testament as to how we have combated, be it the UAVs, be it the other cyber attacks, be it the malware or the hacking system. Many individuals have also been held on the allegations of espionage. So whenever we talk about the cyber domain or the tech domain, we have been working indigenously, and we can see that through our Akash Tir missile systems and the Akash system that has been successfully working. And moreover, we can say that India has had the 5th rank in the world on the military spending. But we need to upscale when we compare it with the other superpowers.
Right. Now, moving forward, I want to go to a more general, issue of foreign policy per se, and what is the how much centrality should we give to national security within foreign policy? I mean, it looks like an obvious or a no-brainer, right? These two are supposed to be go hand in hand, right? But it's not always been the case. If you go back in the history of India, so there have been times when, for example, the Defense Ministry was at odds with the Ministry of External Affairs on many questions on how to deal with national security issues with foreign adversaries and all that. So in the Modi era, there's been a conscious effort to make national security a very, very central element of our foreign policy, right? And our posture towards various countries, as well as our partnerships, the strategic partnerships, all these are closely linked to national security considerations and calculations. So they are not devoid of national security content. So I want to talk a bit about this combination of foreign policy and national security, and how much of it have we been able to make it seamless between these two concepts, and what more do you think we need to do to make sure that our foreign policy is serving our core national security goals and objectives? Yes, please.
My name is Diksha Bhatnagar. I am from Delhi University. Sir, foreign policy is both the shield and the spear of national security. So the link between foreign policy and national security has to be there. Without this, having a foreign policy seems like it seems a little bit wasteful of resources. But foreign policy in India, as you have rightly said, has never truly incorporated this stance. We have started with non-alignment, and now we have been very passive with the threats that have been lurking around in our neighborhoods. But now we are moving towards an assertive approach. And national security is no longer a byproduct of diplomacy. We are actively pursuing it. So I feel like that currently in the Modi era, it is happening on 6 particular dimensions. So firstly is the assertive counter-terrorism mechanisms that we are deploying, which we have discussed extensively about today. So I will not go into details about that. And then secondly, we also have strategic partnerships that we are going that we are going for. For example, the Quad partnerships and revitalizing that, and also deepening our ties with France, with Russia, the core military suppliers, core defense technology suppliers to India. That is extremely useful because it builds a very deep connection, and it also creates ties that will not be neutralized that easily. And then we have diplomacy, which is one of the major deterrents, and also a mechanism for us to hold accountable the kind of aggression that is being showed to us in our neighborhood. So for example, we have successfully been able to put Pakistan on FATF's grey list, which is a great achievement for our diplomacy. And the delegates being sent to different countries to change the narrative against Pakistan and to expose its support of terrorism is an excellent approach. And we are also following a neighborhood first approach, which is, I believe, the fourth or the fifth point in this list, where we are making sure that in our neighborhood, we emerge as a security provider. So the Sagar approach, and during COVID, this was very well shown when we were able to supply vaccines to 100+ countries, and we were able to emerge as a true supporter of people in crisis. So
non-traditional security, healthcare
yes,
and all these also matter.
Employing healthcare as a area where we can go and pursue foreign ties with people is an excellent approach in my perspective. And lastly, I totally support the stance that we are currently taking about the narratives that people are spreading. So we are actively trying to engage a narrative instead of just passively sitting and just thinking about making a change. We are actively doing that. So even our national emblem has been changed a little bit, and the lions that used to represent India as a peaceful state are now a little more assertive, a little more aggressive, which is what we need to be in terms of our national security.
Thank you. That's very well summarized. We need to be more assertive and a little more aggressive. I mean, that's, young India always wants that. And finally, we have a government that is paying heed to these calls, which is reflecting or channeling this nationalism in the society and making sure that India does not get left behind, especially in a highly hyper-competitive era where there is so much great power rivalry and all that. You can't just sit back and say, I'm going to be a pacifist. That's not possible, right? So we have to push back against the adversaries, and there's so many means we are adopting to do that. Any other thoughts? I mean, one of the things that always strikes me on the question of foreign policy, national security is the way we have, handled the Chinese since the Galwan incident. They were saying, keep aside this problem and the border issue and let us just develop friendly relations in other areas. That was always the Chinese approach. And we said, no, if you have got 60,000 troops in frontline positions across the LAC, and if you are threatening to do more incursions and to unilaterally disrupt the status quo at and all the previous agreements, we cannot have normal relations, right? So no talks with terrorists with Pakistan, but no talks or no normalization unless you respect our sensitivities. This is the message that went to China, right? And that is how we managed to push them back from all the points into which they had tried to intrude before and after Galwan. So any other thoughts on foreign policy and national security and how the two could go together? Yes, please.
Namaste, this is Tamanna Kaushik from Indira Gandhi University, Haryana. Talking about the strategies that we have employed in our foreign policies, like we can see the policy of string of pearls of China, which was the setting up of naval bases in the some region of Pakistan and all these along with Belt Road Initiative. How India is counter to that thing. Like we can see the necklace of diamond that is setting up of naval bases in the Indo-Pacific region, and with in some maritime exercises. Like we have been indulged with many US trades and US maritime exercises in the Indo-Pacific region, and with according to all these that China is doing, and India is rising day by day. We are standing, we are India is neutral in all these things. Like we are not at the side of anyone. We are now seeing the concern of our country, and national security has become the centralized in the foreign policy of our country. We can see that how USA is imposing 25% tariff and penalties for buying crude oil from Russia. So this shows that we are not now submissive of USA, that we are not going to reduce the trade from Russia or anything. We are to deal with it, and we are saying it's okay. We will but we will still go with this, and we will have trade with all the countries we want. Like we are not going to subordinate with all these things. This shows that how foreign policy of India has been attempt to show India as a global power, like rising power. And all of these are trying to suppress India, but India's foreign policy is seen as very powerful in the recent past.
Thank you so much. Our friend from Haryana is saying that India is not submissive. And I think that's a very important point. And I'm sure all of you share this viewpoint that, we are not submissive. And especially when our adversaries or even some of our partners make trouble for us, it's not in our interest to simply sit back and take those blows, right? So there is a pushback that we are doing, and that is part of this, more proactive national security approach. All right, now we just heard a little bit about economic threats, and obviously these also matter. Traditional national security is mainly concerned about defense and military, but there is also this aspect, right? Because our goals for the centenary 2047 is to become a developed country with a high income and with a large GDP, and to be equal of China, equal of the US in all these parameters. So for that to happen, we need to overcome a lot of barriers, and unfortunately we are rising at a time when there are a lot of headwinds and barriers internationally, right? So there is this whole trade wars, already it's been mentioned, the tariffs that we have been facing. There are also export restrictions, like the Chinese are restricting rare earth exports to many countries, hurting industries across the world, including ours. And then, there's just the rules-based order on international, the WTO system, all these have just collapsed, right? So we are doing, of course, free trade agreements. We are trying to keep up with these changes, but end of the day, economic security does matter in the overall national security, right? And how well are we able to protect our core economic security? Some of you mentioned in earlier remarks that, we can't depend on anybody and we have to develop our own, but there is also a limit to how much indigenous innovation can happen very quickly. So you take an example, for example, pharmaceuticals. We realized during the pandemic and after, like our drug manufacturers were so heavily dependent on the active pharma ingredients, APIs as they call, which are imported from China, right? It's only we realized after this that it could be denied to us, or we could be held to blackmail or hostage for our core economic security and even for our the health of our people, that now we have started developing our own APIs. We are still not at a point where we are fully self-sufficient in this. So let's reflect on economic security for a moment, move away from defense and military and, intelligence and terrorism and all those things. Let's focus on economic security. And how do you think we need to strategize to ensure our core and protect our core economic security? Yes, please.
Myself, Sana Afreen. I am from Jamia Millia Islamia. So, coming to the question, how economic system plays an important role. So, first of all, the recent tariff or trade war which is going on, and it has shaken all of us, and especially India, which is a growing economy. And the recent 25% tariff, it will not only harm India. We need to see the other perspective as well. To the larger extent, it will harm the consumers of US also. They will have to face the repercussions of it. And if we talk about India, the steps that India should take, I would like to bring this point that India should need to focus on its domestic aspect also. Like we need to, now the time has come to strengthen our domestic territory by giving more importance to the traditional kind of the systems and economic systems which have been going on, such as like investing more in agriculture sector. And right now only in recent parliament monsoon session, our Minister of Commerce Affairs, Minister Piyush Goyal, he said that India will work to the best of its capabilities to ensure that its national interest is protected, and so that our farmers are not at the end of to suffer the repercussions of these trade wars. So India needs to have approach a multi-pronged strategy in this. Like we need to invest more in domestic sphere, so that we can counter the this trade war of US.
Thank you. Yeah, so reduce dependence. I mean, interestingly, we are not a very export-dependent economy anyway. You know, domestic consumption is the core of the GDP growth in our country. But of course, exporters, we would like access to foreign markets, and we will negotiate hard with our partners, and I'm sure that we will be able to bring down these tariff walls also eventually. Any other thoughts on economic security and what more we need to do to ensure it? Yes, please.
Namaste, I'm Pratiksha Prakash from Bangalore University. I graduated from Bangalore University. So on economic perspective of India, what I would like to say is today's world is defined by trade wars more so than your conventional wars. So in when we are considering trade wars, obviously our strategies on how we approach it matter. So things that I would say is economic diversification with regards to imports and exports. We should not be very based on US imports or like particular countries, but diversify our imports and exports. Second thing is Atmanirbhar Bharat. I think each one of us are very focused on that, be it going local in purchases or be it export, like being filling that domestic gap with regards to exports or manufacturing. Third thing is something that is questionable because of the multilateral organization or the international forums such as WTO, which we were very dependent on for economic policies. They are close to redundant now.
Yeah.
So we will have to focus on bilateral trades. Things like how India-UK relationship just very recently signed an FTA very successfully. We'll have to consider bilateral trades in key sectors and focus in multiple sectors, not only in things that we were conventionally good at. I think that can benefit us in ensuring economic security vis-a-vis national security.
Thank you so much. Yeah, our friend from Bangalore who is talking about diversification, viewers, and diversification is always the best strategy, especially in a time when conflicts are raging, even in the economic realm, and there's economic warfare that is being launched from multiple power centers. We are almost out of time, but I want to bring in a few more voices at the end about the role of young people in general, you know, in national security. It cannot be just Office of National Security Advisor or the chiefs of the armed forces or the intelligentsia, right? Ordinary young people who are nationalistic and conscious need to step forward. So I want a few voices briefly on what young people can do for the security of this country. How are all of you here stakeholders, not just recipient? You're not just consuming national security. We must also produce national security. And how can we do that? What are the means? Yeah, can I hear from you, please?
This is Tripti Meyer from Amit University. We need to do, the youth basically, is maintaining a decorum of education, educating people. It's not being about only being self-reliant. It's doing about holistic development, which matters to all of us. Basically, we can even join the NCC camps, the various military exercises and organizations for these all stuff. We can basically even ensure that we invest in startups with basically invest in defense equipments, modernizing. India is spending a lot more than millions of its GDP on defense, but basically what matters is that everyone needs to do that. Even the economic synergy needs to be maintained, that our economy is being more resilient towards defense equipments and not being on startups or food and stuff on Zomato or basically Swiggy.
Thank you. Yeah, kind of conscious consumerism that also contributes to military and defense preparedness. Interesting point. Any other thoughts on young people, what young people can do for the security of this country? Yes, please.
I'm Devadipta Roy from Surendranath College, University of Calcutta. So I'd like to just add a few points to what our last friend mentioned. We can arrange voluntary camps. The government of India has in place many schemes and policies. We need to figure out the lapses in the implementation, the deficit in implementation of these policies, and I think youth can play a major role. I think voluntary camps at the block levels involving the BDO offices and district levels, I think it will be a way forward to come up with integration of youth in the national security policies. So
Thank you. Any other thoughts? Patriotism is such a central thing, right? To make sure there's a patriotic sentiment and that's sustained in the society and there's unity. Yes, please.
Namaskar, sir. Devesh versus this side from Delhi University. As we talked about how youth can contribute to this thing and patriotism, so basically national security doesn't begin only at the borders. National security begins from the homes, communities and networks. National youth are the backbones of the national security. As even Swami Vivekananda emphasized on it, ki give me 100 energetic youths and we shall transform the country, India. So youth can contribute to the national security by doing just small things. Like we can combat as so many things have been mentioned earlier as well, as we can combat the misinformation being propagated, like fake news. As per the MIT University report, fake news spreads fast, 70% faster than the verified news. As India, over the 65% of the population is basically comes under the 35 years of age. So our geographical dividend are the national security dividend also. So youth can contribute in the civic sense also. We can promote unity and integrity. As our Gita says also, protecting unity and integrity of our country is the basic dharma, basic duty. And,
absolutely.
And youth can literally contribute in so many ways, like civic sense and cyber hygiene. We can protect our cyber hygiene, which protects our country from the cyber attacks as well. And we can do so many things, like youth can organize the interfaith communities program, which harbors the unity. So interfaith, interreligion programs which unites the country.
Thank you. Yeah, so many amazing ideas, but we almost run out of time. Our last speaker was talking about the Gita, and I want to mention a Sanskrit shloka, viewers, which Prime Minister Narendra Modi has popularized. Rashtra Raksha Samam Punyam, Rashtra Raksha Samam Vratam, Rashtra Raksha Samam Yagyo, Drishto Naivacha Naivacha, which means there is no greater act of piety than national security. There is no greater vow or pursuit than national security. And there is no greater sacrifice you can make for a bigger cause than national security. So national security is all encompassing. We have tried to cover so many dimensions of it in today's discussion with these 28 young people from across various educational institutions of India. And the sum of it is that, India is on the right path, and certainly we are more conscious of national security threats and challenges that we face. We are more realistic about them. We don't have any illusions about it being an easy world out there. There's a lot of conflict, a lot of rivalry, and it's very ferocious. And we will need to defend our corner, and not only defend ourselves, but also project our power across the Indo-Pacific and beyond as a rising country with significant means, but which is still behind the great powers. So there is a great power rivalry between China and the US, and there are so many wars raging around the world. National security is up front in everybody's attention. So we will need to prioritize this relentlessly in our foreign policies and also in our domestic policies. And it's only then that we can live up to the dharma of protecting the state. And it is not only up to the government, but also ordinary citizens, young people like these who are patriotic, for them to keep pegging away at the challenges that we face. And without the contribution of the society, especially young India, we will never be able to have a secure India. So I want to thank all of you for joining me in this show. And it's good to see that the Josh is high, and that we have to continue fighting for this country and for its rise. Thank you, viewers, for watching. I'll see you again next time. Until then, take care.